Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to this exclusive series on Snowflake native applications. For the past few days, I have been experimenting on a very interesting building block of the native application framework. And you know what? The results were overwhelming. And in this particular video, I'm going to share those results with you. Native application as a framework is fairly new. Now, if you as a developer is looking for information over the internet, the first thing that you will encounter is the product documentation. Now, is the product documentation enough for you to get started? Yes. But then if you are planning to build a production grade application and you want to deep dive on each of the building blocks, maybe you need a little more assistance. And as promised in the beginning of the series, I'm going to bring you exclusive videos on every building block of a native application. Let us start focusing on the building blocks on which I was experimenting. I was actually experimenting on the different ways you can move or upgrade your application from one version to the other. Now, if you have been an application developer, you very well know that in the application lifecycle, upgrade management plays a very crucial role. You are not only moving new features on top of an existing one, but you also have to ensure that the state of the existing application is maintained. This is going to be the topic for this particular video. We are going to deep dive onto application versions and upgrade management. Before we jump onto the content for today, here is a humble request. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not done already. And if you think these are the kind of videos that makes your life super easy as a developer, please press the like button. And lastly, here is a quick disclaimer. Any ideas or thoughts that I will be sharing in this particular video has nothing to do with my employer, and these are absolutely mine. With this, let's jump on to a presentation.
On the screen, you see a pictorial representation of how the entire mechanism of application versioning and upgrade takes place. Let's double click on each of the boxes. So you have the provider account and you have the consumer account. In our scenario, we have assumed that we have an application package that has two versions, version 1 and version 2. Now, at any given point of time, a native application can have two versions, version 1 and version 2. In case you have to bring in version 3, any one of the versions of the existing stack, version 1 or version 2, will have to be deleted for version 3 to come in. Let's assume at this point of time we have just version 1. A version can have multiple patches and we can have up to 130 patches for a given version. Now, when is a version created? A version is created when we have some major updates. Patches are created for minor updates. So we are assuming that at this point of time, the version 1 and patch 2 is actually installed on the consumer account. Please note that we have a release directive as well. Now, what is a release directive? A release directive is an instruction to the application framework to say that which is that particular version and patch which needs to be installed on the consumer account. In our example, we have set the release directive to version 1 and patch 2. And that is the reason version 1 and patch 2 is installed on the consumer account. At this point of time, I decide as a provider that I need to bring in a few more features to the application. And that is why I bring in version 2. Now I have version 2 and patch 1. Now patches are not mandatory, patches are optional. The moment you create a version, patch number 0 is created by default. However, you can add more patches. So we are assuming that we have patch 1 at this point of time, which needs to be installed on the consumer account as an upgrade. So the first thing that what will I have to do is I'll have to update my release directive to version 2 and patch 1. The moment the release directive is upgraded, it is time to push the version 2 patch 1 to the consumer account. There are two ways in which you can perform this upgrade. Number one, there's an automatic upgrade. The release directive can be set in such a way that the provider will automatically push version 2 patch 1 to all the consumer accounts wherever the application is installed. The other way is a manual upgrade, wherein it's more of a pull than a push. The consumer decides at what point of time the consumer wants to install or upgrade the existing version by a new version. Please note, it is also important to talk about the application state. It is very evident that an installed application will have some amount of consumer data. The consumer may have created some data within the application using the application itself, or the consumer would have created maybe a machine learning model which is saved in the application stage. When the new version, in our case which is version 2, is installed on the consumer account as a part of this upgrade process, it is a responsibility of the application framework to ensure that the application state of version 1 is retained, which means any data which would have been created as a part of the application in version 1 should be passed on to version 2 without any loss. Needless to say that the developer will also have the onus to ensure that the setup script is written in such a way that any data created as a part of application version 1 is not overwritten by application version 2 unless it is required. We have spent enough time on this presentation for now. I think we are all set to dive onto VS Code and see all of these in action. During the hands-on, we are going to focus on the manual upgrade process. Automated upgrade process is something which we are going to review in future. We are on VS Code. We will be using the very same project that we have been building for the previous few tutorials. For this tutorial, I have created two unique setup.sql files. The first one is upgrade underscore version 1 and the second one is upgrade underscore version 2. We will be using these two SQL files to understand the entire mechanism of application upgrade process. Using version 1, I'm going to create an application, and using version 2, I'm going to upgrade that application from version 1 to version 2. And during that particular process, we are going to see how the state of version 1 is retained. Let's double click on each of the versions. In version 1, I'm creating a function called add2, which is going to do a very simple job of adding number 2 to an integer which is passed on as input. There's a stored procedure called insert data. Now to understand insert data, let's look at what insert data is used for. I'm creating a schema called app underscore data within the application itself, and in that particular schema, an account table. In this particular table, we are inserting records which are static in nature. There are three attributes: ID, name, and value, having the following information as tuples. Now, once the table is created, this is the stored procedure which is used to insert data within the very same table by the consumer. Let us look at version 2. In version 2, we are creating the function called add2 again. We're introducing one more function which is add3, and we have insert data stored procedure along with the same table which was created in version 1. Now, if you carefully study the construction of this particular SQL file, you see that I am using create or replace stored procedure. That means if add2 function would have existed in the schema called core, we are going to retain it and we are not going to overwrite it. Very similar to this, if we see that in app underscore data, the table called accounts was existing, we are not going to overwrite it. That means any data which would have been inserted by the consumer in version 1 will be retained in this particular schema, and version 2 is not going to override the data which was created in version 1. Let us execute each of the scripts and see how we create version 1 of the application, upgrade that to version 2, and during this process of upgrade, we will see how the state of version 1 is retained. We are on Snow site. Now, before I started recording this video, I have already created the application package. Now, the process of creating an application package is nothing new. We have created the application package from the ground up in the previous videos. If you are looking at this video for the first time, I would sincerely request you to go back and check out the previous videos where we have gone through these in detail. Let's head over to the package that has been created. On the left, you see the package is created. There's a schema called stage content. Under stage content, if I expand the list of stages, there's a stage called app stage which has been created. Let's see what is the content of app stage. I think we will have to use the database and the schema first. Let's look at app stage. And as you can see, there's the manifest file, there's a readme file, and under scripts, there's a file called setup_5 app upgrade version 1. So at this point of time, application development package has the script for version 1. What is the next step? I'm going to create version 1. Now I think this has also been created. If I do a show version 1, yes, version 1 has already been created. Let's go to applications and check this out. Yes, I can see that version 1 has already been created. Fantastic. Let's head over to my SQL script again. Let's talk about the release directives. I think I have already created the release directive here again. But if I do a show release directives, what do you see? You see the release directive is created on version 1 and patch number 0. If you recall from our presentation, even if you do not create a patch equals to 0 is created by default whenever you create a version. And that's what has happened out here. In the previous videos, we have been using the very same account as our provider and the consumer. Now here in this video, for the first time, we are going to use two different accounts, one for the provider and one for the consumer. The current account which we are looking at, this will be used as a provider. Hence, if you see inside my apps, there are no apps which are installed. Now, if I go to my listings, what do I have to do? I have to create a listing. I think it's already done. And in the provider account, if I go to my listings, yes, this is the listing which I have created. It is still live, and this listing has been shared with my consumer account. Let's go to my consumer account and see that in action. Here I am on the consumer account. If I go to my applications, I can see that the listing has popped up. Okay. I'm going to do a get. Now I am using account admin. For the first time, you will have to use account admin. Set the native app warehouse options, our first tab. So we are going to use account admin to install the application from the marketplace. Now this is a marketplace used for the private share. The application is getting installed right now. It takes a little bit of time. Done. Now if you see, the application has been installed using account admin. And because it has been used using account admin at this point of time, I need to add native app consumer role in here so that native app consumer role can use this application. Let's go back to my worksheet. If I do a show applications at this point of time, you will see our first app has popped up. Fantastic. Let's use the first function, if you remember, add to. Okay, I need to select native app warehouse. If I do a select star from application name dot schema name dot accounts, these are the 4 records that has popped up. If I execute add to, I rightly get number 101. Now I'm going to use the stored procedure insert data to insert one record within this account table. Maybe I'm going to insert one more record. Let's say I name this app 2. Now I'm going to select the data. See, I have inserted ID equals to 6 and ID equals to 7. Now that we have seen the application version 1 in action, we would like to upgrade version 1 to version 2. The first thing is to create version 2. So for that, we'll go to the package, we'll go to the stage content and update the stage with the right setup file. It is going to be the second file. We have uploaded it. We also need to update the manifest file. So for that, we would like to go to VS Code and we're going to change the name of this particular file version 1 to version 2. Right. Go back to my stage. Update the manifest file. Upload it. Let's go back to my worksheet. I'm going to create a new version called version 2. If I do show versions, what do I see? I can see version 1 and version 2. Let's go to the application UI and see that the 2 versions have been created now. Okay, as you can see, the release directive is still pointing to version 1. So we need to update the release directive to version 2. How do we do that? Alter application package, set release directive to version 2. This is what we are going to do. And if you execute show release directives, which is here as well, let me copy and paste it here. The release directive points to version 2. Fantastic. Let's head over to the consumer account. Once I go to the consumer account, I can see that the version 1 of the application has already been installed. However, it has been installed with the owner account admin. Let's go ahead and see, is the native application consumer still having the rights? Yes, native application consumer is still having the rights on the installed application. If I go to my worksheets, I'm going to use the role called account admin for the upgrade process. Alter application, our first app, upgrade. What is it going to do? It is going to go to the listing, which has already been upgraded. For the upgrade process, we will have to use the role account admin because native app consumer is not having the right to upgrade the application. We're going to alter the application upgrade. Now the moment I click this, what is it going to happen? The version 2 from the marketplace is going to be installed on this consumer account. Let's go ahead and do this. It's going to take a little bit of time. You see, version 2 has been installed. If I do show applications, I will see version 2 has been installed at this point of time. Let's ensure that version 2 is rightly installed. If I go to my core schema, I should be able to see two functions out here. Absolutely right. I see add 2 and add 3. If I go ahead and execute add 2, I think we will have to select the right database and the schema. Okay. There we are. If I do a select on the table, I can see that the first 4 records along with the 2 records which have been created in version 1 by the consumer are also present. That means the state of version 1 has been retained and version 2 has been upgraded on top of version 1 with the state being retained. Let me go ahead and execute the third function which was introduced in this version. Yes, we are right again. Fantastic. This brings us to the end of this particular session. At this point of time, if you think that you have really enjoyed this content, please do not forget to hit the like button. I'll be super excited to hear about your feedback in the comment section as well. Thank you very much and have a wonderful time until we meet in the next lecture. Bye-bye.